Welcome to the first episode of Biz Real Talk. This is a space where we strip back all the noise and get honest about the messy, beautiful truth behind life and business. I'm your host, Sarah Jo, and today we're diving into a conversation that is probably a little bit overdue, raw and real, all around social media and our confidence. So to help me unpack this conversation, I am joined by some incredible panellists from all over the world who are bringing their lived experience, bold opinions and big truths to the table. So let's meet them. The topic is all around social media and how it impacts our confidence. And so the title of this show is social media hijacking our confidence? Now, for me, it's a bit of both, yes and no. So, but let's hear from you, Amy Birch, first, because obviously you work with women who, how do I put this? They're really ambitious women, but do you find that social media and being visible is something that holds them back? Or do you think they find it empowering?
I think there's two sides to that question. I think one is the social media that they're consuming as a business owner and trying to keep up with everyone and what you should be doing as a business owner, the mindset, do this program, do that program. I think that can be incredibly overwhelming for women in business and just the sheer volume that's out there. And that is one of the things that I find I'm working on a lot with my clients is like, this business is doing that and this business is doing that. And so they're comparing yourself as a business owner to what other businesses are doing and keeping up with that. I think it's not just overwhelming, it is confusing as all can be. And so I find a lot of the noise to be really disempowering because it just leaves you in a like, I'm not doing all of that, so what should I be doing? Am I failing at everything? And I feel like that can then impact how their business shows up on social media because they don't show up with authority. They're second guessing themselves a lot of the time. And so and yet the women I work with, they're growing their businesses on social media. So it's that double-edged sword of needing to be in a place that can also not make you feel great and learn the tools to stand in your own authority and not actually need to compare yourself as where we find the space to play in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that was actually some of the talking points I had written down as well. So that's awesome because that's aligned. Amy P, I know obviously you're working with mums specifically. I know as a mum that when I became a mum, my confidence plummeted. And not just, in my personal life, but in my business as well. So is that something you're finding as well within the ladies that you're working with?
I'd say when you become a mum, you do kind of lose your original identity to some extent. You're navigating this whole new journey of, being a mum and having tiny humans to look after and keep alive. And that can be a lot to kind of get your head around, being able to go out, do whatever you like, to suddenly having, other priorities that you need to focus your attention on. So yes, I do think, for me personally, I definitely lost a lot of confidence when I became a mum. But then I did struggle with postnatal depression after having my kids. So I think that was definitely one of the main things. And I was a business owner when I had kids. So, you're going from this person that's doing everything for everyone, and then all of a sudden you kind of have other priorities that you need to focus your attention on. And depending on how you are once you've had kids, totally depends on how you feel about everything and confidence wise. So definitely it's something that has grown in me over the years. Mine are 8 and 10 now. But yeah, I think confidence can be really knocked sometimes when you suddenly are a completely new person.
And how do you see that showing up in the ladies you work with? How do you see that showing up with social media? Do you find it holds them back? Do you think social media is impacting their confidence on top of everything else?
Yeah, I work with the majority of the niche that I work with are women who run businesses in the beauty and wellness industry. And I do find that, especially on social media, you have all of these people putting up pictures of absolutely incredible work, which you don't actually know whether is real or not because of the amount of editing that is available now to these pictures, these amazing before and afters. And I'm not saying that everyone edits. I don't edit. I can't be bothered. There's that kind of like, I take the picture, what you see is what you get. But I do find that there are a lot of pictures that are going out there now that aren't particularly real. They might be edited to within an inch of their lives, and then other people in the same industry are looking at those pictures and going, well, why aren't I as good as her? You know, I've been doing it like 4 years more than she has. Why is her work incredible and my work looks like this? So I do think that a lot of it is based on whether it's real or not, like when you're comparing yourself to other people. That's a big thing in the beauty industry, is the comparisonitis. It's big, and I think it does put a huge amount of pressure on people running businesses, and then they look at their work and they're like, well, my work's not that good, maybe that's why I'm not getting the bookings. But then, you know, you've got people at different stages of their journey, and also the editing that goes on as well. So yeah, there's a huge thing around the confidence, and around comparing yourself to other businesses. And I think that's something that we need to get out of, because, you know, everyone is at different stages, and sometimes stuff is real, sometimes you need to take it with a pinch of salt.
I've got to be honest, because I noticed that when I put a filtered picture as my cover on Reels, it throws, like, the algorithms throw that post out really quickly compared to if I don't. So actually, I am, as much as my content is authentic, that cover picture 9 times out of 10 is something that's filtered purely to play to the algorithm. And that's something I battle with within myself all the time, because I'm very big on, obviously, that's why I'm doing this show, it's about being real and being raw. And then my daughter pointed it out, my eldest daughter, that, Mum, even if you slightly filter them, you filter your cover pictures. I'm like, yeah, good point. And it made me really go inwards as to, okay, why do I do that? And start building on my self-confidence. And it is that comparisonitis. You want your content to reach and the right people, but at the same level as you see your peers and your competition. And I think it's really a difficult one to battle with as a business owner, because you need your content to reach, but you also want to be real. That might be a good point to bring Tarandeep in, actually, because Tarandeep's content, if you haven't seen it, is always very real, and she speaks her mind, and she just goes for it. So come on, Tarandeep, what's your thoughts? Do you think self-confidence, like social media, is hijacking self-confidence?
And yes and no. I guess it's like everybody mentioned, there is pros and cons to the social media and the way you want to portray your business or your personal brand. But I think my point of view of social media would be that the social media itself don't kills our confidence, the performance does. And we kind of blended those things together so much that we don't see the difference between, because we want perfectly worded hooks, you know, the trending audios, and that overthinking every single post actually becomes something that underlying theme goes, oh, the wrong sentence will ruin your credibility. So it becomes, specifically because I'm working in the coaching industry, you know, the credibility for the coaches is everything they have. And if you doing that, you showing up not for connection, but for performance. And that's where the downhill is, because they start to filter the essence of who they are, and they're trying to fit the format. And the natural confidence, I think that's where it gets lost. I always say in my content, probably in every single reel you will see, I will say that it's not that you don't know what to say, is that you convinced yourself that your voice needs editing, because you need to be credible, be professional, fit some sort of standard. And this confidence dies in the expression when it becomes the performance perfectly packaged. A lot of people, that I have conversations, they always say, oh, but I don't have nice house to film content. But you're losing the point. Actually, you're losing the point, because you started your business out of passion to help people, or, you love what you do. And now you're trying to fit in how everybody else looks on socials. So I think that performance part is really big role in the confidence.
Thank you, Tarandeep. Jo, obviously you're in the same industry, but you work with obviously a different audience. So what do you find? Do you find that social media impacts the confidence of, people who are already feel a lot of the time unseen, because you work with a lot of people who are disabled or from minority groups, and we've had a conversation around that. Do you think that social media impacts their confidence, or do you think it gives them a voice?
I think it can be both. I think so. I'm talking from a sort of personal use here rather than businesses who use it. So, maybe someone who has acquired a disability rather than has had it for, their life, they start, they look at pages, they start following people, and it's, oh God, I don't look like that. I'm not like that. I'm not loud. And I feel, it doesn't matter, what everyone looks like. You just be you. And you don't have to engage with these people. You don't need to shout out loud if you don't want to. And if I may pivot to businesses I've worked with, a lot of them, they get really worked up because they don't have the amount of content to post that their competitors do. And, they're following their competitors on Facebook, and they're seeing, multiple posts a day. And they come to me going, we don't have enough stuff, you want to put more out. Like, well, actually, if you look at the dates those things are posted, they're actually on separate days. The only reason you're seeing them consecutively is because you started following them 2 days ago, and the algorithm is throwing everything at you. But you have to look at each post, and you can see that they've got their strategy in place. They're doing once a day or once every 2 days or whatever they're doing, but the algorithm controls when the followers see that. But if a lot of people don't realize that, and they're trying to compete by posting multiple times a day when they don't need to. And I just say relax, because what you're seeing is what technology is dictating, and you kind of have to realize that. And then going back to the personal page, and Amy might agree with me here. I have friends who, when they've become parents, there was one woman who was convinced that the Instagram, the dream, the mothers and daughters looking alike, doing picnics and lovely things, was how it was going to be. And I'm child-free myself, but I was going, well, it's not going to be quite like that, not every day. But she was convinced that because all she was seeing was these mums and daughters in their matching outfits doing lovely things every single day, that's what she was going to have. But hey, do I tell her about nappies, or do I leave that as a nice surprise? But yeah, I think a lot of people need to realize that social media is not the dream sequence that they think it is.
Yeah, definitely. We see highlights essentially. And I think at some point, because we put our content together and we want it to look nice and want it to reach and all the good stuff, I don't know how many of us actually put out content around, on those really rubbish days where we're just like, I don't think I can do this anymore. 24 hours later, you're usually fine. You've had a chat, you've had some sleep and took care of yourself a bit, and you're fine. But I think, are we all a bit guilty of putting out the highlights, maybe? Because I think that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this show, was to show that it's not all the glitz and the glam, but regardless of it not all being glitz and glam, it doesn't mean they're not going to be successful. That's the bit that builds the resilience. That's the bit that teaches us how to move forward and how to navigate the obstacles. one of the things I found in business is that my identity was wrapped up in my business. So going on social media with myself being the brand as opposed to products, that was a big pivot for me, and that I had to relook at my relationship with myself. And this is where I want to bring Vanessa in. What do you find, Vanessa, with the women you're working with? Obviously, you're working with them in the sense of dating, but obviously self-confidence needs to be secure in who you are to find the type of partner that, is suited to you. And I think that comes down to the relationship with ourselves. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how if you think social media impacts the confidence of people you work with.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So, yeah, there's lots of sides to it. So in terms of the business side of things for promotion of the podcast and for single events and jumping on and doing a live and a story, like you're putting your face out there. And I think it can really damage your confidence if you allow it. And that's probably an unpopular opinion. But what I mean by that is that your lack of confidence comes from somewhere. And if you can work out where that comes from, you can rewire that, reframe it, and then you show up as your confident self. Because when we're looking at other people's thing, we compare ourselves. And it's like comparison is a thief of joy. So if you have a message to share, especially if you're a woman in business, you have gifts that you have to share with the world. You want to help people. You're given that for a reason. And if you're shying away because you don't want to show up online, which, let's face it, social media is how we promote our business now. It's a beautiful platform that we can connect with everyone around the world. We compare ourselves to someone else. So if someone else has got a podcast and they've got 10,000 followers and I've got, 500 or whatever it is at the moment, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. It's possible for me too. So I'm not comparing myself and making it a competition. I'm reframing it and I'm saying, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. The other part of that is knowing that your authenticity and your vulnerability is a superpower, right? So you show up as your authentic self, people are going to resonate with your story. Like if you were honest, like when I talk about dating, talk about being ghosted and dumped on Christmas Eve and all of this stuff, people are laughing at my story, and it's fine because I laugh at it too now. But there is a message in your pain, like there is a message in your mess, right? So it's like, yes, it can be hard. But once you break through that and know that there's women out there who need to know that someone else has gone through or is going through the same thing as you and you can help them, that's what brings in your power. That's what brings in your confidence. And you're going to have maybe people that said, oh, why are you talking about this for? And no one wants to hear your story. Well, actually, yeah, they do, because people are listening and people are engaging. So it's having that confidence in yourself, in your voice. And for me, it was a long journey. Like I had a stutter as a kid. I was bullied in school. So for me now to have a podcast, it's like, who is she now? But it's like, I have something to say and I have a voice as an adult. I know I can go back to my inner child, that little Vanessa, give her what she needed at the time, because I have these gifts. I have these ideas that I know need to be brought into the world. So yes, I think it definitely can ruin your confidence, but I think reframing that, one of my business coaches once, she goes, but did you die? And I think it's from a movie. And I'm like, what do you mean? And we had a coaching session and she's like, I want you to go on live after our coaching session and just share 2 key takeaways that you've had. And I'm like, I can't do that. She's like, yes, you can. She's like, you're not going to die. Like, you're just going to just say something. And then I finished that live. I was the most empowered I think I'd ever been. And I'm like, I'm still standing. I didn't die. And that for me was me taking the steps to build that confidence, so it's just going to take the little steps. So yes, it can kill confidence, but I'm about reframing things. I'm about a more holistic approach, like find out where that comes from, because your gifts are a superpower. Your vulnerability in your voice is your superpower. And you can use social media as that platform to connect and network with everyone around the world and create your business a global business, not just in your country or in your town that you live in. So, yeah.
I love that. That is so true. And all of you have mentioned about comparison, which is something that came up in the comments on the poll that I put out. Just before I go to that, I just want to come to Jennifer, because I know that you were really passionate when you spoke to me about social media and women and how we see ourselves and how we build or don't build each other up. That was a real kind of passion of yours. So what are your thoughts on social media and our confidence?
Okay. I think social media is an amplifier, and it amplifies whatever we're sitting in. And my journey with social media has been, it shows me where I'm sitting with myself. My vulnerability, my responses, my reactions are usually telling me a lot about what's actually happening inside myself. The challenge that sometimes you find with that is that you're getting the feedback in a public forum. And we know feedback works best in a private forum. So there's some challenges there with getting the feedback through social media. But when we spoke the first time, it was like, I sometimes wonder as women how we're really supporting each other. And I've noticed recently quite a few of my friends have put up updated photographs on their profile pictures and all of the rest. And I've just noticed the comments that people have made. And it's like, oh, you look beautiful. Oh, you're gorgeous. Oh, what a stunning photo. Oh, you look so great. And I thought, we're back to the 6-year-old little girl going, aren't you pretty? And it's like, as women, we have a lot more going for us than aren't you pretty? Like, there are bigger questions in our world than are our little black shoes sparkly and shiny, and are our little socks all nicely tied up with pretty bows? And it's like, I sometimes wonder what's happening with the programming in our own brains, because instead of saying, wow, what a powerful image, interesting shot, how do you plan to use that? How's that speaking to where you're going? Wow, why did you choose this? Or instead of commenting on the context of the photo and becoming curious about their expansion or their growth, half the photos are going, you look pretty. And I go, wow. It's like, oof. So I really work hard now to stop myself making comments about other people's inherent nature. If I'm complimenting someone on something, and I do, I notice things all the time about people, and I regularly go, oh my God, they're fantastic earrings. But I don't broadcast that on social media. I absolutely, I walk through a plane and I'm walking along, and next minute my head goes and it's like, oh, great necklace. And I'm really known for that. I'll often see a necklace before I'll see the person's face, because the jewelry will speak to me. So I certainly notice things. I certainly compliment people on things, but I don't know. I just wonder how we train our responses to elevate rather than moderate someone. And how are we actually to become really conscious of what our input, well-meaning and well-intended, and like the people who said, aren't you looking gorgeous, you're glowing, everything in them was wanting to support. Like their very essence, they were supportive. But I just question how we think about support. And can we elevate our thoughts about how to support each other generally, and especially on social media? I don't know. It just has me.
No, that goes quite nicely with the poll that I did. So I put a poll up on several networking groups, specifically predominantly female networking groups. I did try and put them up on others, and they weren't obviously published. But the feedback that I got was, when I asked the question, is social media hijacking our confidence? It was split down the middle. It was absolutely split down the middle. And I'm just going to read out the context of some of these comments here. So Cal Paps, do you think social media is the problem, or is it how we use it that's knocking our confidence? And I think that speaks to like everything that we've just been saying, and Fran Barley, she put, social media is wonderful for confidence if people know how to set boundaries and work on limiting beliefs. So I think everything we've just spoke about the feedback that I got from the poll is completely in line with everything you all said. Sometimes, do we think it's an education thing that we need to be looking at, as opposed to educate people on how to use social media in a positive way, and talking about not comparing each other and supporting each other instead? Who wants to go first?
I absolutely agree with that. So I'm quite proud of myself that I seem to have managed to train the Facebook algorithm to only send me photos of cute animals and pretty art. And I've done that by just liking and loving stuff from artists and, you know, zoos and wildlife charities. And now all I get, most of the stuff I get in the mornings, it seems to be, you know, nice things to look at, and those are the sort of the things I like to promote. You know, I want to work with people who have lovely things for people to look at to distract them from the noise that the world keeps throwing at us. And yes, I get the odd political thing that I scroll past and or maybe look into if I'm really interested. But yeah, it's mostly animals, which is my thing. So I think maybe we should educate people to like the nice things more, to like, love, care, all the other thing of that. And that's the way you get nice stuff on your feed, just by reacting to the things you love the most.
I love that. Who wants to go next? Amy?
I think we like covered this before. It amplifies what's going on, right? So if we're not doing that in our day-to-day life, like kind of calling, like speaking to people in the way that we think we should be doing it in social media, then educating people on social media is not going to, like, I feel like educating people on how to do that on social media is not important. Educating our children on how to do that with each other and adults, less hope with adults and children probably, that's where that will change. And, you know, I controversial because I know the negative sides of social media, but I love that my child wakes up in the morning and takes a photo of herself on Snapchat and sends it to her friends. There's no filter, she's got no makeup. Like, these kids are far more comfortable showing up as themselves. Like, she's not super young, she's a teenager, same with my young adult son. These people aren't filtering, and that gives me some hope. And I know there's a lot of the bullying side happens there, but in terms of that confidence piece that I feel like we're alluding to a bit here around comparison, I think they've got a different version of comparison. But to address that, we still have to address it offline. I don't think educating people on how to use social media will change innate behaviours if we're talking about comparison and holding people up.
Yeah, especially if it's not in relation to business, because I think we can learn about social media in terms of algorithms and, you know, how to use it to effectively help our business. But if we're talking about social media just in personal use, you're still going to have those people who are the keyboard warriors who are still going to want to have their say and things like that. So I think you can build confidence once you have the knowledge, where knowledge is power. But in personal use, I just think it's going to be very hard to educate people around social media because, like Amy said, you're still going to have those bullies on there as well. So, yeah.
So how do we, as businesswomen then, I mean, we've all used different ways of building our self-confidence and, you know, empowering ourselves to move forward. But what are your biggest tips, all of you, for, you know, building that self-confidence and that resilience and feeling empowered and showing up as your true self without letting fear stop you? What, you know, because we have confident days and then we have days where we're not so confident. You know, this morning doing this, I was probably the most unconfident and disempowered I've been in weeks because of the fear. My hands up, pure fear, because I'm challenging myself and stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm doing something that I'm really passionate about and believe in, but it's still scary. So how do we give ourselves the tools to be the most confident versions of ourselves?
You just have to do it, I think.
Yeah.
You just
because I think if we ask you in, like, you know, 1 week after you finish all of the recordings, you're just gonna be like, I'm fine now, you know, but you've just taken the steps to do it. You're like, why was I even worried about? What was like the fear taking over? You know, but that's because this is your first one. When you get to 5 or 6, you'll be like, I'm a pro, I'm all good at this now.
It's just rewiring your brain, isn't it? Because your brain is there to keep you safe. And this is like when you've not done anything like this before, when you've not done something, if something is new to you, something that's new is always going to be scary. I remember getting behind the wheel of the car for the first time and thinking to myself, oh my God, I've got to drive this thing. Like, now I get behind the wheel of my car and, you know, this doesn't sound great, but sometimes I get somewhere, I'm like, how the hell did I get here? You know, it's second nature. because I've done it so much, I
Yeah.
don't really think about it anymore. And it's the same with social media. If you want to grow your business, if you want to get out there, go live, just go on and start small, say hi, introduce yourself. You just have to say hello. Like, that's literally the first step. And when you get off, you realize, as you said earlier, did you die? No, your brain will start realizing that actually nothing bad is going to happen. So the more you do it, the easier it will get. And I feel that with everything that I've done, like I've done like 11 or 12 podcasts now, and I feel everything flows a heck of a lot smoother. My first podcast, oh my God. I'm not going to delete it because it was the first one, but I can definitely tell the difference between the first one and the 15th one. And I think it's going to be even more improved by the time I get to the 50th. It's the more you do something, the easier it gets.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot to be said for like the reframe, because I looked in the mirror, I was like, Sarah, 15 years ago, you were talking on national TV, live in front of millions of people. You can do this. It's a recording. What are you doing? Like, stop talking yourself out of it. I think there's a lot to be said for reframing and just grabbing the tools that you've learned to help you move forward and overcome the fear. Sorry, I cut somebody off who was trying to speak.
Sorry.
Sorry, Amy, you go ahead and I'll follow.
I was just say, like, is the problem that we're talking about needing self-confidence, or like, is self-confidence there or not there? Like, it's kind of from this conversation, it's having confidence is not the point. And the more emphasis we put on it, the more people think I'm not feeling confident to show up, where the emphasis is on just do the thing that is going to get you to the goal that you want to have. And so maybe the conversation is to not to put so much emphasis on like, how do you feel showing up, and actually just doing the thing.
Yeah. I would say so. That's great for lives, and I know that posts are a bit different because you put them out and you don't get reactions immediately because algorithms. So I love scheduling, just so you can get something to go out, and then you can post it. You felt good about the content you put out there, but then you can just go away and forget about it for 5 minutes because the scheduler will look after it for you. So you go out, you make a cup of tea, you go look out the window, you do whatever makes you feel good, and you come back, you're feeling a bit better because you've got your dopamine fix, and it's there, it will happen, or it's happening, and you don't have to worry about it. And I think having that kind of organized take to it also helps with feeling better about doing things.
I think you're spot on, Jo, that there are some days that you feel strong, you feel really good, and it's like it's easy to create content. It's joyous. You've got things to say, you've got things like you just want to share stuff. And so that's when I maximize the creation.
Yeah, and then you don't want to put it all out at once because that's the whole 5 post a day thing. So then, spread it out over the week because then you don't have to worry about stuff happening. And because you're not worrying, you're going to be relaxed and calm with your cup of tea and your nice view out your window, etc.
Absolutely. That whole scheduling and planning, not just for a week or two, but like long-term planning and batching things means that you can ride the waves of your own energy. And as you say, you don't wham it all out at once. You can place it out strategically so it makes sense for people, creates consistency. And some days, seriously, just pressing the button to turn on the computer is about as much as you want to do. You really don't want to be out facing the world. And that's great because you've already got it planned. It's already there. It's either scheduled or you've just got it in your plan and all you've got to do is load it. But it's very low emotional energy. So I think it's not a strategy for how to build confidence, but it's a strategy for maintaining presence and accepting that as humans, we have waves of energy. Things go up and down. Nothing is static and fixed. It's a ride. And so ride the wave to your best advantage.
Yeah, utilising your power when you're feeling good. And actually recognising that when you are having those low moments, you don't want to put social media posts out if your energy isn't in it, because your energy will be transferred to that post. People can tell whether you're lit up and excited or whether you're literally dragging yourself to do it just because you feel like you have to. So utilizing your power when you're feeling it is very important.
Yeah, I love that bit about the energy as well, because, you know, the energy, the reason behind we do things really matters as well. So like if you're like turning it to dating, for example, like if you're on a dating app and you're trying to look for, you know, the person, and then you're coming home and you're feeling like crap after a day, you've just got your track pants on or whatever, and you're replying from a place of that you can't be bothered. So your responses are going to mirror that. And that's the energy that you're putting out there. Same as like, yeah, with your business posts and things. What I wanted to just add in here quickly was about women in business. So we have obviously monthly cycles. So during each week, we feel a different way. So when we're ovulating, we have much more energy and we're kind of more in our feminine. Whereas if you're in your follicular stage or you're in your menstrual stage, you don't want to go on social media. So a good way to do it is like to batch your content when you're feeling more energized, like in your cycle, when you know that you're in like your ovulation phase or you just finished your period because you've got more energy. So working with your cycle as a female really matters as well. It can, yeah, really help you with your confidence and, you know, what energy you're putting behind your content.
So me and Vanessa have had this conversation before, because I read an audiobook, listened to an audiobook called Do Less, and it was all about this. And I started obviously playing with that and seeing when, you know, my confidence felt at a peak and when I just really wasn't, you know, up for creating content at all, and when I just wanted to hide away. So I think there's definitely, you know, if you've got the capacity to learn those things and actually explore it, there's a lot to be said for that. It really helps within business. It definitely does. I do agree, and I do love batch content creation. As a social media manager in the past, I would do that for clients. For myself, however, this might be a little bit controversial, but for myself, I actually don't batch. I create a load of content. I don't schedule it. I don't decide when it's going out. My reels tend to be spontaneous, and I found even with my background in social media, I'm still trying to figure out why. But when I don't post for 2 weeks, and then I post something that is meaningful to me or what I'm doing, the algorithms check it out to everyone. But when I post consistently, that doesn't happen. So I think we also have to be aware of, like, my reach and my engagement quadrupled by putting out one post in 2 weeks. My account still gets new follows and engagement and reach when I'm not posting. So I think we have to really take the emphasis maybe off of posting all the time. Yes, we need to be consistent as business owners. We constantly need to be moving that needle, but does it always need to be public? So I'm finding at the minute that being consistent in a slightly different way is working for me. That may not always work, and don't get me wrong, I'm building it into my building in those additional posts so it is more consistent. But if I see numbers dip as far as it getting pushed out to people, my ideal audience, I'll strip it back again. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I can see Tarandeep's face and Jo's face, and I know that's not the norm. And don't, like I said, when I was a social media manager, I would not be recommending that at all. But I've just found on my account and a few others that a few client accounts, that at the moment that's what's working best for them. Their energy is higher, the content is more relevant, it's more authentic, and they haven't got this pressure to perform by doing it that way. So, ladies, hit me.
I actually agree with you. I think if you haven't posted for a while and then your first post back after 2 weeks, for example, the platform is going to boost that because they want you to remain working on that platform. And that's, which sort of makes sense from a business point. The reason I always encourage regular posting, and I think Tarandeep will agree with me, and you will agree with me as a past social media manager, is you need to keep being present so your followers see you. So it's a bit different from like someone giving a wellness information at live to someone who is trying to sell something. And so what I find is you just need to keep posting regularly at around about the same time every day, and it doesn't necessarily mean your followers will see it at that time, but the algorithm will boost in. But one thing I've found with clients this year is the posts won't get targeting reaction until 24 hours after. So Not sure how that's working. So regular posting like that will work for people. But I always say, if you want to pop up and do a live and it's not part of the content plan, but it's because you're feeling good, just do it because it's not going to harm anyone. Obviously, don't do it if it's going to harm anyone's mental health. But definitely, if you're feeling good and you've got a good story about anything, definitely just pop up.
Tarandeep,
I think I'm just listening, and I think I can talk about this for hours, to be honest, because batching content, it's not confidence, and it's not a strategy, is the control that we're dressing up as a strategy. We like to be in control, and I think that is really has been big impact of the teachings that we saw on social media. For example, get this blueprint, you just follow this blueprint and you will be fine, or nail your niche, and all those people that are on the higher levels of social media that are so visible, whether that's with the ads or organically, their aesthetics, everything is on brand, and when people follow that, I think it becomes brand that they don't even want to show up for. And that's what secretly impacts the confidence, because I can tell that from my own experience. I had a mentor where she was kind of saying, oh, your brand colors are not correct. But those colors mean something to me. And she said, but I can't read. So she said, you need to change to more neutral colors like a beige and, all that type of thing. And I did, because obviously, who am I? She knows so much better. And I hated my feed. I hated my social media. Being a social media manager, can't say that out loud, can you? I absolutely hated showing up. And I said, you know what? After trying for a couple of months, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I changed to my original colors, and I'm loving showing up. Because
I love your original colors. I've just got to say, I absolutely love your branding. You know this. I love your colors. I have no idea how you get, even from someone who is used to recording other people's content and editing it and everything else, how you get those effects. I can see the lights behind you, so I've got an idea now. But how you get that lighting so good, I don't know. But yeah.
I just love what I do, honestly. And my point with this is that your social media should feel like home, not a dressing up a costume. It has to reflect your actual personality. And I am such a colorful person. I'm very bold with the colors and with the statements. And when I had to tone it down, that's because I always been told, you're too much, you're too bold, you're not going to get a husband if you talk like that. All those things unconsciously being imprinted. And I think so many women, specifically the ones that I'm working, they're being told the same things. You're too much. You need to tone it down. And when we do that, then the brand is not reflecting who we are. And the content creation becomes such a dragging chore that we can't grow because we can't express our voice. So I think, building brands that are actually representing who you are. I'm not saying wash your dirty laundry publicly. That's not what I'm saying. But being vulnerable, being having that voice that you really want others to hear, and stop listening to the fluff that is.
Back onto colors. One thing I say, I absolutely agree. Use the colors you want because that's you. But I think you do have to be conscious that not everyone is able to see things the way you do. So, like, I use dark mode on my socials because I'm light sensitive. So if you've got like a white background, it's almost like I'm blinded by it. It makes me screw my eyes up and get a headache. So, but I'd say if you've got white background, that's fine. But then have a dark foreground or use dark text so there's a bit of contrast. Even if someone had, sort of neutral tones, they got a neutral background and neutral text in front. If you do an outline of the text in black, so it's a bit easier to read for people who are visually challenged?
I think it's a really difficult one. So obviously my middle child, she has Erlen syndrome. So high contrast for her, she can't read. It becomes all blurry. So I think it's really difficult when we're trying to create social media branding and content, a business branding content, because we want to be inclusive of everybody, but sometimes it's just not possible.
And
so
that's that's where the power of image description in the main caption comes into play. So for a lot of people who are actually with visual impairments, they have screen readers, and you have the tools on Facebook and Instagram and Blue Sky, etc., where you can put it in the tools so the screen reader will recognize. But for people who are not, who don't have screen readers, they can still have issues being able to read or see what's on screen, let's say his daughter, like me. And so that's why the image description you put into the platform tool, you should also put into the main text, because then when someone's scrolling your feed, they can see what the image is, they can read about it. And I often find that with Instagram, people put these really detailed pictures on, but because you're looking at it on a mobile, I can't see what the picture is trying to show me because it's tiny. But if you've written down what is in the picture, I will get the message, and therefore I will understand what is being spoken about.
That's definitely something to think about with our content on socials. I just want to go to one point I have written down here. We've obviously talked about comparison and everything else, but I just want to close off with the vanity metrics. Are we chasing those vanity metrics as validation of what we're doing, a validation of ourselves, and are we using those as a way, or trying to use those as a tool to build our self-confidence? And actually, because we're not dealing with, lots of you said it, we're not dealing with what's at the core of that lack of self-confidence and that lack of self-esteem, because we're not dealing with that, and we're looking to social media for that validation. Is that what's truly impacting? Is that where the true link between social media and our lack of confidence is?
Yeah, I think so, because we're always wanting to look outside of us. It's not about inside and validating ourselves. We want always the opinions of others. So it's like, even if we're saying, oh, we're putting on a new outfit, we'd ask a friend or a partner, what do you think of this? It's not to say, I love this outfit, I love the way it makes me feel, I'm going to go out in it and not ask people their opinion. And I think social media can really be the same. At the beginning, you want people to like it, to know that it's resonating, that, it's landing for someone. But then once you do post, just like the anxiety comes in, looking, oh, how many people have liked it? You keep on looking at your phone. But again, energetically, it's like, oh, you're coming from that place of lack and, scarcity. It's like, oh, no one's liked it. Oh, who's there? And it can really mess with your confidence. And yeah, me personally, it goes up and down. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, who's liked it? And then other times I'm like, oh, who gives a crap? Like, I don't care. Like I love what I put out. So it does play on your confidence, but remembering the why, like why you started, why you're a business owner, who you're helping, really helps validate yourself, but then also know like it will reach the right person in time. Like whoever it needs to reach, it will reach. So I always kind of come back to that messaging for myself.
And Amy B, I saw you nodding when I was saying that bit about vanity metrics. What are your thoughts?
I think as women in business, a bit depends on, excuse me, what your business is. In terms of, if your business is absolutely thriving in terms of sales, you're not, and whether that's you have a service or whatever it is, you're not worried if your follower count is going up. And so I think the vanity metrics are a symptom of something broader. And so I think it's an interesting one that I work with people on, and same for myself, but you're not going to worry about vanity things when the base is going well. And so it's not letting yourself get dragged into how many people follow me or what's my like count or whatnot, because if that is, it's being able to, I guess, give that perspective of that is only a symptom of something else that is the issue. And so I won't say it's not one that I haven't fallen into, but it's one where I'm like, if business is if business is going well, I feel like it has less impact than if business is not, because it's then, oh, I need more people because I need to grow my business. And so it's just a really, I just think it's really a symptom of something broader.
So I think realistically, with the conversation we've had today, for me, my takeaways are kind of like the vanity metrics and us needing that validation obviously aids the lack of self-confidence sometimes. But if that happens, we really need to start looking at what it is that has damaged our confidence or our self-esteem and really work on that. And then when we work on that, I mean, I can say from personal experience over the last few months of doing a lot of this work, is that as soon as I started to do that, I showed up more. I showed up more authentically. Hands up, when I first started speaking my truth, it was because I'd seen Tarandeep being like full on speaking, using her voice and speaking her truth, and a coach friend of mine, Jessie, doing the same. And it's just like, okay, I feel like I have permission to tell my story now and to really step in and step into my power. But then I realized very quickly that was kind of a quick boost of confidence, and I needed to do the work to continue showing up in the way that I wanted to. So what is your one tip to anybody? I'm going to go around the room, but what is the one kind of tip that you would give to anyone watching this who wants to build their confidence, or feels like social media is impacting their confidence? So Amy, you're already at the top of my screen, so Amy B, so if you want to go first and then we'll go along everyone.
I think it's do the things that scare you. They lose their scariness when they're in the light. So just do the things that scare you until they're no longer scary.
Thank you. Tarandeep?
I think is connecting with your voice, building something that you truly want to express into the world, and making that the core of your personal branding, rather than trying to follow each and every rule that you see on the social media. I think connecting with yourself will be the biggest achievement in terms of breaking that confidence roller coaster.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Community connection would be where I'd go. And it's like, we were never meant to do this alone. We're never meant to do anything alone without support. Community of people who actually can walk beside you makes an enormous difference. So, and you talked about it before, Tarandeep spoke up and she was so powerful in her expression that it helped inspire you to speak your truth. And I think surround yourself with good people who are ready and committed to help you move forward.
I love that. Amy P?
Well, I'd probably say the comparison. Just stop comparing your day one to someone else's day 100. Like, we're all on our own journey. We all need to find our own way, doing things that feel good to us. So we need to follow our own truth and stop comparing ourselves to others. I think that'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, I love that. Jo?
Again, with the just do it, I think post, do a live, then step back, take time out. You've done that scary bit. The reactions are probably not going to come immediately. So do something else for half an hour, get away from the computer, then come back and see how it's doing. Check the insights a week later, because they're probably a lot better than you think they are.
Thank you, Jo. And Vanessa?
I think mine is going to sum up what everyone has said. So start small, but just start somewhere. Whatever feels comfortable for you, make that your stepping stone. Get in the room with people who are already doing what you're doing. So instead of seeing someone as a competition, as like a comparison, reach out to them and collaborate with them, because they've started where you are. Like, everyone starts at the bottom and works their way up. And then also, use your voice, find your voice. And if you're having trouble doing that, you can hum, you can sing. There's all these different practices that you can do to help clear that area. Yeah.
Thank you, Vanessa. Well, I want to thank all of you for today because, you know, this is the first recording, and I think it's quite a poignant topic considering what my confidence level was like doing the scary thing. And I think it's been great conversation, and I think it's gonna, you know, emote to a lot of people. So I think it's an issue that a lot of us don't necessarily talk about in the depth that we have today. So I want to thank you all for being a part of the panel and for being a part of this episode, and thank you for all of your insights today.
Thank you for joining us on the very first episode of Biz Real Talk. We've hoped you've enjoyed the conversation as much as we have, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.